The first thing Mara Vale heard was laughter. Not friendly laughter. The kind that fills a room when everyone has already decided you are too weak to matter. She sat alone in the center of the Grand Interstellar Academy cafeteria, surrounded by silver tables, floating serving trays, and hundreds of alien cadets bred from warrior bloodlines. Future admirals, planetary heirs, children of conquerors, and one human girl. Mara kept her eyes down as the tallest cadet stepped beside her table. Kale Vor smiled like he had already won. "So this is Earth's best," he said, loud enough for the whole cafeteria to hear. "A little creature that shakes when people look at her." The room chuckled. Mara said nothing. Another cadet reached across the table and lifted her lunch tray between two clawed fingers. The food was simple, sealed in a human ration pack, marked with a blue Earth emblem. Kale studied it, then dropped it. The tray cracked against the floor. Food scattered across the polished metal. For 1 second, the entire cafeteria waited to see what the human would do. Mara's lips trembled. A tear slid down her cheek. The laughter came harder. "Look at that," Kale whispered. "Humans really do cry." But across the room, Instructor Vaya stopped eating. His old battlefield scars tightened across his face. Because while the cadets were laughing, the Academy's security drones had begun moving. Not toward Mara. Away from her. One by one, the little machines backed into the shadows like frightened animals. Mara's hands curled beneath the table. The cafeteria lights flickered. Kale leaned closer, still smiling. Then Instructor Vaya stood so fast his chair hit the floor. "Stop," he said. No one laughed now. Kale turned. "Why?" The instructor's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because you don't know what she is." And then Mara slowly looked up. 3 weeks earlier, Mara Vale stepped through the gates of the Grand Interstellar Academy with one suitcase, one uniform, and the quiet knowledge that everyone was already watching her. The academy did not look like a school. It looked like a fortress built by species that had never lost a war. Its towers floated above a gas giant. Its training fields shifted gravity every hour. Its halls were lined with banners from 1,000 worlds, each one belonging to a race that had conquered, defended, or survived something impossible. And then there was Earth. No banner, no statue, no honored seat in the council wing. Just one small blue symbol printed on Mara's chest. Human exchange candidate. That was all the galaxy thought she was. A candidate. A test subject wearing a school uniform. The first day, the alien students stared at her like she was a mistake in the system. Some were scaled. Some armored. Some moved on jointed legs that clicked against the polished floor. Most were taller than her by a full head. Mara kept walking. Her father had told her not to lower her eyes. So she didn't. But courage did not make the whispers disappear. They sent a child. That's a Death World species. She looks breakable. The teachers heard it. None of them corrected it. That was the part Mara noticed first. The adults were not cruel. Exactly. They were careful. Too careful. They kept their distance, watched her pulse readings, and spoke to her like a sealed container that might crack if handled wrong. Mara did not understand why. Not yet. Then Kale Vor entered her life. He was the son of Governor Vor, commander of the 9th Expansion Fleet. At the academy, that name opened doors, changed grades, and made weaker students step aside before he reached them. Kale was tall, silver-skinned, and proud in the way only someone protected by power could be proud. He saw Mara alone at lunch on her second day. And he smiled. From that moment, he made her his project. A shoulder bump in the hallway. A stolen training tablet. A whispered insult during tactical class. Nothing big enough to punish. Nothing small enough to forget. Mara endured it. Because Earth had sent her there to represent humanity, not embarrass it. Because every camera in the academy watched her. Because one human mistake could become a galactic headline. Then Kale found the bracelet. A thin black band around Mara's wrist, engraved with a name the translators could not process. Eli Vale. Her brother. The only thing she had refused to remove during security intake. Kale lifted it between 2 fingers and laughed. Is this a human rank marker? Mara's voice changed. Soft, but sharp. Give it back. For the first time, the students around them stopped smiling. Kale noticed. So he smiled wider. What happens if I don't? Mara looked at the bracelet. Then at him. And somewhere deep inside the academy, a sealed file under her name quietly unlocked. The warning on it was simple. Do not test emotional attachment. The academy thought humans survived because they were stubborn. They were wrong. Humans survived because they remembered everything that tried to destroy them. The lesson began in Combat Theory Hall 7, a circular chamber built like an arena, with tiers of alien cadets rising into the shadows. At the center stood Instructor Vaya, his scarred hands folded behind his back, his one remaining eye moving slowly across the class. Behind him, a hologram flickered to life. Ancient predators. Extinct warrior species. Collapsed empires that had once ruled entire star systems. The cadets watched with bored confidence. This was their favorite subject. Power. Dominance. Survival. The things their families had spent generations teaching them they were born to understand. Instructor Vaya let the images rotate above the floor. Then he asked, what makes a species dangerous? Kale Vor answered first. Natural weapons. A few cadets nodded. Another student raised a claw. Population size. Technology, someone else said. Fearlessness. Armor. Instinct. Vaya listened to every answer without reacting. Then his eye moved to the quiet human girl sitting in the 3rd row. Mara Vale, he said. What is your answer? The room shifted. Kale leaned back in his seat, already smiling. Mara looked up from her notes. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she answered softly. Memory. The class laughed. Not loudly at first. Just a few cruel breaths. Then louder, spreading through the hall until the sound wrapped around her like a net. Kale turned in his chair. Memory? That's what Earth teaches? No wonder humans are still new to the galaxy. Mara did not look at him. She looked at Instructor Vaya. Pain teaches, she said. Fear teaches. Loss teaches. Humans remember all of it. The laughter faded a little. Not because they understood. Because Vaya had stopped moving. Mara continued, her voice quiet enough that the hall had to lean in to hear her. Most species are trained to avoid pain. Humans study it. We mark what caused it, where it came from, how it moved, what we missed, and who got hurt because we weren't ready. No one laughed now. When a human is afraid, Mara said, we don't always run. Sometimes we start counting exits. Listening for footsteps. Watching hands. Memorizing faces. Kale's smile thinned. Mara finally turned toward him. And when we lose someone, we don't forget the shape of that loss. We build around it. For one sharp second, the room felt smaller. Then Kale clapped once, slowly. How poetic, he said. A crying species with speeches. The hall relaxed. A few cadets laughed again, grateful for permission. Instructor Vaya did not. He watched Mara as if he had just heard a locked door open somewhere deep underground. That afternoon, the academy ran the Ashenfield simulation. It was supposed to be routine. A survival trial. 3 squads dropped into an artificial disaster zone and told to reach extraction before the environment collapsed. The alien cadets had trained for it since childhood. They knew the scoring system, the usual hazards, the safest routes. Kale's squad entered like champions. Mara entered alone. The simulation began with red dust, broken towers, and a sky full of artificial lightning. Sirens screamed across the landscape. Gravity shifted every few minutes. The air grew thin, then thick, then hot enough to shimmer. The alien cadets moved fast. Too fast. They chased the obvious path, following glowing markers across the ruins. They shouted orders, argued over rank, and ignored the smaller warning signs hidden in the terrain. Mara did not run. She crouched beside a cracked wall and touched the dust. Then she looked at the sky. Then at the broken windows. Then at the birds. Not real birds. Simulation constructs. Tiny black shapes circling only one district. Mara turned away from the marked route. The Academy observers immediately flagged her choice as an error. Kale saw it on the squad feed and laughed. She's lost. But Mara was not lost. She had noticed the wind moving the wrong way. The safe route led into a pressure pocket. The kind that would collapse when the storm hit. 3 minutes later, Kale's squad walked straight into it. The ground buckled. Walls fell. The cadets shouted as their comms filled with static. No one was seriously harmed. The simulation would not allow that. But their scores crashed, and their confidence broke with them. Mara heard the first distress signal. She stopped. Extraction was only 200 meters away. She could have finished first. Instead, she turned back. From the observation deck, Vaya leaned toward the glass. "Why is she going back?" one instructor asked. Vaya did not answer. Because he already knew. Mara found the first fallen cadet pinned beneath the training beam. He was not from Earth. He had never spoken kindly to her. He had laughed when Kale took her bracelet. Mara lifted the beam anyway. The observers went silent. The beam was designed for a 4-person alien lift team. Mara moved it alone. Not easily. Not cleanly. Her arms shook. Her face tightened. Her knees nearly gave. But she moved it. Then she pulled the cadet free and said, "Can you walk?" He stared at her like he had never seen her before. She did not wait for gratitude. She moved to the next signal. One by one, Mara gathered the scattered cadets. She used broken metal as markers, stripped wire for splints, ration seals to block toxic vents. She spoke calmly, gave short orders, put the frightened behind cover and the injured in the center. Kale found her near the old transit bridge. His uniform was torn. His pride was worse. "You should have left us," he said. Mara looked past him, measuring the storm. Humans don't do that. Then the bridge began to collapse. For the first time all day, Kale had no insult ready. Mara grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. The storm hit behind them like a closing fist. They made extraction with 6 seconds left. The simulation ended. The chamber lights returned. No one cheered. No one moved. On the central board, Mara's score did not display at first. The system recalculated twice, then locked her file under a red classification none of the cadets had ever seen. Instructor Vaya walked to a private console and entered his old military clearance. Mara Vale. Earth civilian survivor. Titan rain incident. His face changed as the sealed record opened. 9 days underground. 17 children protected. No adult command present. No food after day 3. No light after day 5. No panic event recorded. Vaya read the final line twice. Subject maintained group morale until rescue. Behind him, the cadets were still staring at Mara. Kale was staring too. But he still did not understand. He thought the simulation had revealed a strong human. It had not. It had revealed a wounded one. And wounded humans, Vaya knew, were never at their most dangerous when they were angry. They were most dangerous when someone else was afraid. That evening, deep inside the Academy's restricted archive, Mara's file updated by itself. Category Red Human Resilience Event. Protective Bond Response confirmed. Do not provoke emotional attachment. Do not threaten dependence. Do not isolate subject under hostile pressure. The warning pulsed once. Then the system added one final line. If tears stop suddenly, evacuate the room. The tears stopped first. That was the sign everyone missed. Not the lights flickering. Not the drones backing into the shadows. Not even Instructor Vaya rising from his chair with the look of a soldier who had just heard an old battlefield alarm. It was the silence on Mara Vale's face. 1 second, she was the quiet human girl sitting alone with a broken lunch tray at her feet. The next, she was still. Too still. Kale Vore stood over her, smiling at the crowd, feeding on every nervous laugh in the cafeteria. "Look at her," he said. "Earth sent us a frightened little animal." A few cadets laughed. Most did not. Because the room had changed. The air felt heavier. The academy's white ceiling lights dimmed, then brightened again. Security drones hovered along the walls, their lenses fixed on Mara but their frames angled backward, as if some hidden command had told them not to get closer. Kale noticed the silence and hated it. So he looked for something weaker than Mara. His eyes found Nico, the small blue-skinned cadet who had quietly helped her during the Ashenfield simulation. Nico sat 2 tables away, frozen, trying not to be seen. Kale walked to him. Mara's gaze followed. "No," she said softly. Kale stopped and looked back. "What was that?" Mara stood. Her voice did not rise. "I said no." The cafeteria went so quiet the hum of the gravity stabilizers became audible. Kale laughed once, but it came out wrong. He reached down, grabbed Nico's collar, and pulled him half out of his seat. "You don't give orders here, human." Mara took 1 step forward. The academy scanners came alive. Heart rate tracking engaged. Stress markers detected. Protective response rising. But then the readings did something no alien in the room expected. Mara's heart rate dropped. Her breathing slowed. Her hands stopped shaking. Instructor Vea whispered, "Everyone back away." No one moved fast enough. 2 of Kale's friends stepped between Mara and Nico. Both were taller than her, armored by nature, their shoulders broad beneath polished academy uniforms. The first cadet reached for her. Mara moved under his arm before his fingers closed. Not like a fighter showing off. Like someone avoiding a falling object. She turned his wrist, shifted her weight, and used his own momentum to send him sliding across the cafeteria floor. He hit a table hard enough to scatter trays, but he was conscious, shocked, and unharmed. The second cadet swung from the side. Mara leaned back just enough. His strike missed by inches. She caught his sleeve, stepped behind him, and dropped him to one knee with a clean twist that locked his balance instead of breaking his body. The cafeteria froze. No blood. No rage. No wasted motion. That was what scared them. Kale released Nico and stared. For the first time since Mara had arrived at the academy, he saw the truth standing in front of him. She had not been refusing to fight because she was afraid. She had been refusing because she knew exactly how much damage she could do. Kale's pride could not survive that. His hand moved to his wrist. A hidden seam opened beneath his uniform, and illegal powered gauntlets unfolded over his fingers. Military grade. Governor class. Forbidden inside academy walls. The old instructor shouted, "Kale, don't." Kale lunged anyway. The gauntlet struck toward Mara's face with enough force to shatter a combat dummy. Mara did not dodge. She caught his wrist. The impact cracked through the cafeteria like thunder. Every serving drone shut down at once. Kale pushed harder, his gauntlet whining under the strain. Mara's shoes slid back 1 inch. Then stopped. Kale's smile vanished. The metal around his wrist began to bend. Not explode. Not break apart. Bend. Slowly. Under the grip of a girl he had called weak. His voice cracked. "What are you?" Mara looked at him, and there was no hatred in her eyes. That made it worse. Because hatred could be understood. This was something colder. A decision. "You threatened someone who couldn't stop you," she said. "That was your mistake." The Central Academy AI interrupted before Kale could answer. Its voice filled the cafeteria, flat and emotionless. Human stress response confirmed. Protective bond triggered. Threat level updated. All student combat privileges suspended. Emergency council observation released. The ceiling projectors flared to life. A classified file appeared above the room. Mara Vale. Earth civilian survivor. Titan rain incident. 17 miners protected under collapse conditions. No adult command present. Category Red Human Resilience Event. The cafeteria stared at the words. Kale's face drained of color. The students who had laughed at Mara's tears now understood what they had been watching. Not weakness. Control. Not fear. Restraint. Mara released Kale's wrist. He stumbled back, clutching the dead gauntlet, no longer looking like an heir to anything. The massive cafeteria doors opened. Council officers entered in formal black armor, followed by 3 academy directors whose faces were pale with realization. Kale straightened quickly, desperate to recover power. "Arrest her," he said. "She attacked me." No one moved. One council officer stepped past him and stopped in front of Mara. Then, in front of the entire academy, he lowered his head. Not to Kale. Not to the directors. To the human girl. "Candidate Vale," he said, voice carrying through the silent hall. "The observation is complete." Mara's expression shifted for the first time. Confusion broke through the calm. "What observation?" Instructor Vale closed his eye. Because now everyone would know. The council officer looked around the cafeteria, at the bullies, the broken tray, the frightened students, and the girl who had endured all of it until someone else was threatened. Then he said the words that ended Kale Vor's future. This was never a test of whether humans were dangerous. He turned back to Mara. It was a test of when they choose to be. The cafeteria did not recover quickly. No one spoke. No one moved. For the first time in the Grand Interstellar Academy's history, the children of conquerors, generals, governors, and royal houses stared at a human student and understood they had never been looking at something fragile. They had been looking at something restrained. Mara Vale stood beneath the glowing red classification above her name, breathing quietly, her hand still half raised from releasing Kale's broken gauntlet. She did not look proud. She did not look victorious. That unsettled them more than anything else. Kale Vor backed away, his silver face twisted with disbelief. The heir of the 9th Expansion Fleet, the boy who had ruled entire hallways with his father's name, now stood in front of the academy with one dead weapon hanging from his wrist and nothing left to hide behind. "This is illegal," Kale said, forcing the words out. "She assaulted me. She endangered students." The council officer turned slowly. Behind him, the cafeteria projectors shifted, replaying the last several minutes in silent light. Kale grabbing Nico. Kale activating the hidden gauntlet. Kale striking first. Mara waiting until the last possible moment. The truth hung above them, enormous and undeniable. "No," the officer said. She ended a threat. Kale looked toward the directors. None of them defended him. That was the moment he knew power had left the room. The officer raised one hand, and Academy security stepped forward. Not toward Mara. Toward Kale. His rank insignia dimmed on his uniform. His command privileges vanished from the Academy system. His name disappeared from the leadership board beside the cafeteria entrance. For a boy raised to believe status was permanent, it looked like watching a planet lose its sun. But Mara was not watching him. She was looking at the floor, at the broken lunch tray, at the scattered food, at the small black bracelet lying beside it. Eli Vale. Her brother's name was scratched across the metal band in worn human letters. For a moment, all the power in the room, all the council officers, all the alien eyes and military classifications faded away. She stepped past them, knelt, and picked up the bracelet. Her fingers closed around it gently. The old instructor, Vaya, saw her shoulders tighten. Not with anger. With memory. He had seen soldiers do that after battles. He had seen survivors hold the smallest object like it weighed more than a warship. That was when he finally understood what Earth had sent them. Not a weapon. A witness. Someone who had suffered, remembered, and still chosen not to become cruel. The council officer faced the room. 3 weeks ago, he said, this academy was instructed to observe human candidate Mara Vale under social pressure. The Galactic Council needed to know whether humans were too unstable for Alliance command. A wave of horror moved through the instructors. Mara looked up. "You watched?" she asked. The officer's expression tightened. "Yes." The word landed harder than any strike. Mara's eyes shone again, but this time no one laughed. "You watched them do this," she said. No one answered quickly, because the truth was worse than silence. The council had tested her patience, her fear, her anger, her loyalty. They had wanted to see if humanity's reputation was exaggerated. And in doing so, they had revealed their own weakness. Vaya stepped forward before the council could smooth it over with official words. She is owed an apology, he said. The directors turned toward him, startled. Vaya did not lower his voice. Not a diplomatic statement. Not a file correction. An apology. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the academy director, a tall alien woman whose species never bowed outside religious ceremonies, stepped down from the platform and faced Mara. "Candidate Vale," she said, her voice quieter than anyone had ever heard it. "We failed you." The words spread through the cafeteria like a door opening. One by one, other instructors lowered their heads. Then cadets. Not all at once. Not perfectly, but honestly enough. Mara stood in the center of them, still holding her brother's bracelet, and did not know what to do with the sudden respect. Then a small voice came from beside her. Nico, the blue-skinned cadet she had protected. He held out half of his untouched meal with both hands. "I know it is not human food," he said softly, "but you should not eat alone." The cafeteria watched. Mara stared at the tray. For 3 weeks, she had sat by herself while the galaxy decided what humans were. Dangerous, primitive, emotional, weak. Now one frightened cadet was offering her food because she had stood between him and someone stronger. Mara took the tray. "Thank you," she said. Nico sat beside her. Then another student stood. One who had laughed before. He carried his meal across the silent cafeteria and placed it near Mara's table without meeting her eyes. Then another. Then another. Soon the empty tables around Mara were no longer empty. The academy did not change in one perfect moment. Places built on pride never do. But something began there. Something the council had not measured. Respect born from shame. Trust born from courage. A new understanding born from one human girl who had every reason to hate them, and still chose protection over revenge. Above the cafeteria, the red classification faded from Mara's file. A new designation replaced it. Human Alliance Candidate. Guardian response confirmed. Instructor Vaya watched the words appear and allowed himself the smallest smile. He turned to the nearest director and said, "You wanted to know what humans are." He looked back at Mara, sitting at the table now surrounded by students who no longer dared call her weak. They are what happens when pain learns mercy. Far beyond the academy, the council report reached every major power in the galaxy. Most read it with caution. Some read it with fear. But one empire on the outer rim read the file and laughed. They saw a crying human girl and thought Earth could be broken. They missed the warning hidden in the final line. Humans do not become dangerous when they are hurt. They become dangerous when someone helpless stands behind them. And the next time the galaxy tested that truth, it would not be in a cafeteria. It would be on a battlefield. Because Mara Vale was only the first human they misunderstood. She would not be the last.